During the process to build the EventDay application, so far we have run the Smart Device application on Android, which is the default platform. To generate for Android, we install the necessary requirements in order to run the application on this platform. Also, we check that the Generate Android property is set to true, and the main platform property is set to Android, which are the default values. As we've said before, when running Genexus, an Android emulator is open to test the application. If Genexus finds an Android device connected to the development machine through a USB cable, the emulator is not opened and the application is run on the device. For the development machine to detect that the device is connected, the corresponding drivers will have to be installed on the machine. In addition, it'll also need to have the USB debugging option enabled in the development options, in Configuration, Applications Development, and allow for files to be transferred. In addition, it is necessary to indicate that applications may be installed from any source. Prototyping on the device ensures faster execution and provides access to all its functions, such as GPS, camera, calendar, and so on. In addition, no emulator behaves exactly in the same way as the actual device. If the main Smart Device object was set as Startup Object, the application will be compiled, and the APK file will be installed on the device. Otherwise, the KBN will be installed on the device, and the application will be run through it. Even though this avoids the need to compile the app, its drawback is that some of the app's parts may not be displayed or run exactly the same as if it had been compiled. The device must be connected via Wi-Fi to the same network as the web server where the REST services are located. Remember that the USB cable doesn't provide this connection. Prototyping in the Genexus cloud is the best option because the cell phone will be able to access it via Wi-Fi. In this way, it will be in the same network as the server's REST services. We will run a demo to see that. So, we open Genexus and run the application. For example, I'll just press F5. The EventDay object is not set as Startup Object, so I expect the developer menu to be opened, followed by the emulator running with the KBN. Take a look at the developer menu. The emulator is opened, and within a few seconds we will see the application running with the KBN. Because I've just pressed F5, and the Smart Device main object was not set as Startup Object, here I have the app running with the KBN, and the main menu is opened. Now we'll close the emulator and connect the device via USB cable. Remember everything we've said. You need to have the device drivers installed, the developer option must be enabled, and the USB debugging property must be set to on. Also, you need to allow the transfer of files and the installation of software from anywhere. Alright, once the device is connected with the cable to the computer, I go back to Genexus and press F5. Before, the emulator would be opened to run the device in emulation mode. Now Genexus will detect a connected device, and instead of opening the emulator, it will run the app on the device. Because I pressed F5 and didn't have a startup object, it will install the KBN on the device. Watch. And if I execute the app, it will run on the device. If we go to the screen, we see that no emulator has been opened. I may also run it in a compiled manner. I open Genexus, right-click, Run, or set this main object as Startup Object. Again, Genexus detects a device connected through a cable. This time, I right-clicked and selected Run, so it will compile the application and send it to the device. Now it's generating the APK file, that is to say, the compiled application. If we now look at the device, we see that the KBN is no longer being executed and the compiled application is being run instead. As we've said before, the device must be connected to the same network as the device where the REST services are stored. In this case, it is the development machine because the USB cable doesn't provide this connection. So I'm prototyping in the cloud with my development machine, and at the same time, I have my device connected via Wi-Fi to the same cloud. We can also prototype the app on the device without connecting it via cable to the development machine. To do so, we need to use the device to scan the QR code of the compiled app and install it. This QR code is displayed on the developer menu when we compile the app, whether by setting the main smart device object as a startup object or when we run this object as I've just done. The compiled file corresponds to the APK extension package, which contains the entire logic and metadata of the app and can be installed on the device. However, in order to install applications on a device, they have to be signed. For Android, the generated APK is always signed, so you don't need anything else to install the application on the device. As we've said before, the device must be in the same network as the web server, so we'd rather prototype in the Genexus cloud. Now, let's see the steps required to run the app on a device with the iOS operating system. First, we must configure the Generate iOS property to true. Its default value is false. Note that the main platform property is now set to iOS. In the iOS specific group, we need to configure some options to run the app that we will see next. The execution type property gives us several prototyping options. First, let's see iOS devices Mac. In this case, we have a Mac computer and an iPhone or iPad connected to the Mac through a cable. With this option, we must complete the Mac host properties with the name of the Mac computer in the network or its IP, and the credentials to access it in Mac user and Mac password. Pressing F5 generates the application and sends it to the Mac, which must be connected to the same network as the development machine. When the transfer is complete, the application is compiled in the Mac, and the IPA extension package is transferred to the iOS device connected to the Mac through a cable. This prototyping option is the fastest and most realistic because this app will be identical to the app that will be available for download from the store. To use it, the developer must be registered as an iOS developer on Apple's website. The Mac must have a development certificate installed, and the device used for testing must be registered within the certificate. In addition, an app ID must be created for every application to be tested. The simulator Mac value in the execution type property allows us to prototype in an emulator of the device running on a Mac. In the iOS specific properties, we need to set values for Mac host, Mac user, and Mac password. To this end, the Mac must be in the same network as the machine where Genexus is installed. In particular, we can run Genexus in a virtual machine in the same Mac and have the virtual machine connected to the same local network as the physical machine. Pressing F5 transfers the app to the Mac, where it's compiled. Next, the emulator is opened and the compiled app is installed in it. The Mac computer must support remote login and have SSH, Secure Shell, enabled. The iOS simulator property allows choosing the emulators available in the Mac. So in it, we can also test an app with various types of emulators, such as iPhone and iPad. If you don't have a Mac to compile the app, you may run it using the Knowledge Base Navigator that has to be downloaded from the Apple Store. The link to download the KBN is available in the developer menu. View, Show QR codes. In addition, the QR code of the app's URL will be available to be captured from the KBN. To use this option, we need to set the execution type property to Knowledge Base Navigator device. In the execution device property, we can choose one of the devices associated with a Genexus account. To do so, first we must log into the KBN with our Genexus account. Then we enter the user with the Set User button, and then we select the device from the list. Once we've cataloged the application in the KBN, by entering the URL manually or through the QR code, as we explained before, every time we press F5, the application is automatically updated with the changes made in Genexus through a push notification received from the server. Now, let's see the application running. As we've said before, the mobile device will have to be connected to the same network as the web server where the REST services and the database are hosted. To make sure that the devices have access to the server where the services are stored, one option to run the app is Deploy to Cloud. That is to say, store the REST services in the Genexus cloud. In this way, it'll be easy to connect the device via Wi-Fi to the same URL. This option avoids the need to locally install the database and the web server. Instead, we can have Genexus create everything in the cloud. In addition, we can access the services and the data using the device's Wi-Fi connection.